we are getting a Star Trek puppet episode. That was confirmed exclusively at San Diego Comic-Con. Akiva Goldsman and Alex Kurtzman have talked about it in length. And with this incredibly stupid plan, I'm going to look at other really stupid ideas that Alex Kurtzman and his team have had over the last few years with the new Star Trek series. And I'm going to ask you, which is the stupidest? Welcome to the Tachyon Pulse podcast.
Our tachyon pulse has been unable to completely penetrate the anomaly.
Puppets. I'm glad, though, that they've at least now confirmed that it is actually Jim Henson's production company that did the puppets, so it's now Brian Henson that does it. So that is a company that I adore, and I love it every time they get any proper work. So there's a risk of going bankrupt a couple of times. So this puppet episode is being done by Jim Henson's production company. But I'm going to look at some of the things throughout New Trek that have really, really frustrated me. And I've actually gone as far as saying that is just a stupid creative decision. I'm going to start with Discovery, Season 1. Everything to do with the Klingons and their ships. Basically, it was a terrible creative decision. They looked like they were made out of plasticine. The actual Klingons, I mean. They changed everything to do with really about their culture, how they dressed, how they looked, how they behaved, and all of their starships looked nothing like, or behaved nothing like, anything we'd seen the Klingons have before. The fact that while cloaked they rammed another vessel as well seemed odd. But I have to say that creatively it was a terrible decision, basically because they based it on nothing. We've had 3 versions of Klingons within Star Trek. You've obviously got the ones that look like Romulans without the bumpy head in the original series. We then obviously got what we consider to be Klingons now, basically, because it was on TNG, Voyager, Enterprise even, and obviously Deep Space Nine with the bumpy heads. They changed them for the movies, for the Alex Kurtzman, Kelvin timeline. And the Klingons we got for Discovery were different again. I just don't know why they would make that decision. Why, when you've got an established character style, look, culture, blah, 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 would you change it? At what point do they go, fans will love this? We're doing something a bit different with it. They're going to love it. They're going to go crazy. Yeah, we did go crazy. We went, what the hell is that? So no, it was a really stupid creative decision. Discovery Season 3. All of it. Well, no, I'm not going quite that far. The burn. Stupid creative decision. Again, it took away everything we love really about Star Trek. The Star Trek is supposed to be about discovery. It's supposed to be about getting out there to the stars. And they basically created a storyline where no one could, except for the Discovery. Actually, I'm going to come back to the Discovery in a bit. I didn't understand why they did it. I thought it really took out a lot of fun out of the series. It took out really than what we saw in Season 4 with the new Federation, which was quite cool. It just took that away from most of Series 3. And it got worse. Because what caused the burn was basically a teenager called Sukal having a tantrum. And, everything about the burn was just idiotic. Like I say, ruined the storyline, made for a boring season, and their premise for it, why it happened, how it happened, whatever, was just stupid. So, everything to do with the burn, idiotic. I'm saying idiot and stupid a lot. I'm going to say it again now. Picard Season 1. Let's make Picard an android. I don't even know where to begin with this season. There was a lot in there that was just not well done. But Picard dying because of the issue in his brain that was irreparable and inoperable even in the, 22nd century, 23rd century, 22 thing, isn't it? Is weird. And why take one of the most beloved characters ever and turn him into an android? Transfer his consciousness into a robot. And then, just to avoid the Captain Picard's still an old man, the actor Jonathan Frakes, the honest Patrick Stewart is still an old man, they'll go, we'll make the android a bit crap that ages. You know that dicky knee that you've actually got? It'll still be dicky. No, it's moronic. They even said he would die roughly the same time in like 20 years. I'm like, what's the point of turning me into an android then? No. It was weird. It was creepy and it was stupid, and they had enough sense to really forget about it in the second season and only really very briefly mention it in the third as like a joke. So I think even they knew how bad a decision it was, or at least Terry Metalis did. Picard season 2. No, I'm not going to do that joke again. So Picard season 2 started really well and it ended okay. Everything in the middle was really bad, but the stupid bit was Borg Jurati. Right, so they tried to make out that the Borg were good under Jurati, but she still had to assimilate tens of thousands of Borg to build that big ship that didn't again look like any Borg ship we'd ever seen before. But the Borg liked different shapes. They were really geometric in their design thing. They were like, let's do a circle, let's do a square, let's do a triangle apparently, let's do a big spiky Christmas tree one. She's not a good Borg. She's still a Borg queen, and she's still assimilated loads of people. And you're not telling me that thousands of Borg were assimilated willingly. No. It also doesn't really make sense that the whole episode, if she'd have just appeared on the bridge of the Stargazer and gone, "Shh, it's me," that wouldn't have needed to happen. None of the events of what happened would have happened. And I know you've got that cause and effect thing, but depending on how you look at time travel, you could do that. And, I mean, everything after Q clicks his fingers, turns them back, and then they do change a bit of time because the Borg they don't destroy all the ships, sort of thing. So a little bit of time has changed rather than just a little bit more. So, yeah, they didn't need to do it. And it didn't really make sense. And again, she assimilated loads of people. Strange New Worlds, let's get into that for a second. The musical. You know me. I love the good sing-along. I hate that episode. When Buffy did it, they did it well. When Star Trek did it, it was just bad. And the songs weren't any good. I did quite like Nurse Chapel's one song. I did quite like that. The storyline made no sense. It was small science, big fiction, because the reason they had for the fact that they all became psychic and all knew the dance moves and the lyrics to these songs and could all hear music randomly was tenuous to say the best. No, it was stupid. Staying with Strange New Worlds, the Gorn. Nobody ever mentioned in TNG, Discovery, etc. the Gorn, and that they were this threat that they are. We went from one episode in the original series where, it is a spaceman still and he's a lizard, bit camp, whatever, I always think, and then it's just never mentioned again, right? I actually wrongly said in a previous video that you see a Gorn sat at Federation Council, but apparently that's been accepted that actually it's a different reptilian creature. Look like a Gorn. But the Gorn space still actually does appear on maps. It's actually sort of next to the Federation and next to the Klingon Empire. So the small Gorn Empire is still there. And that's in the modern maps of the Federation and the Alpha Quadrant. The way they, though, then decided to change the Gorn was stupid. I would say that actually the fact that they used them in the first place was kind of stupid, because Kirk didn't recognise the Gorn when they were on the planet in that episode when he crack chop him. But he should have done, because this Gorn were a massive horrible threat that were killing countless people and laying eggs in them and stuff. So I'm pretty sure that in sort of the Alien franchise, if a xenomorph was knocking around, that everybody would then know what one looked like. Kirk should have known, but he didn't seem to. They made them terrifying. They made them incredibly evil. And yeah, I just think the whole thing was stupid. But for me, they had to come up with a villain. And the fact that they did a prequel in the first place was also really stupid. Disco. The actual Discovery. The Discovery does not fit the timeline. Now, I do like the design, because I do like how it harked back to actually designs for the Enterprise before they settled on the design that became iconic. So I do quite like the history of how they got to the triangular shape and things. It doesn't fit in the timeline. It's massively overpowered considering the timeline. It's way too advanced. I know they said it's the best of the best, but it's nonsense. It's a ship that was designed specifically to jump around the bloody mushroom clouds of the universe, and I think whoever thought of that was on mushrooms. And it's just, everything about it is stupid. And also, why, when it spins around, why does it then drop when it jumps into the mycelial, whatever it's bloody called, I forget. Everything about the Discovery is stupid. The design is stupid. I don't like how they did the thing that it could instantly travel across the universe anyway, because I just think it's a really crap story way of getting stuff done. No, everything about it is just idiotic. Lower Decks. Everything about Lower Decks is... No, it's not. Everything about Lower Decks is beautiful and amazing and awesome. The fact that they finished doing it at the 5th season was idiotic. Now, I appreciate they might not be getting an extension to their contract, so maybe that's why they decided, look, we'll just finish it at 5. Let's concentrate on the other couple of series we've got going. We can't keep going with this. But they could have squeezed a 6th season in. It was at the height of its popularity. It was brilliant. They had loads more stories to tell. But they decided to end it at the 5th season. Now, I actually told you guys around the 3rd season they're only going to do 5, because I've heard that that's basically their model. They do 5 seasons of everything. That's the plan. But I really hoped they wouldn't, because I really hoped they would, carry on. From a business point of view, it was a popular show. Why end it? Prodigy. Now, before I explain why Prodigy was stupid, I'm going to say I loved it. I actually thought it was a really good show and some of the most Star Trek stuff we've seen. But the whole business model for that show was idiotic. Why do a kids show that's aimed at 5 or 6 year olds but then constantly reference Star Trek Voyager? If you've not seen Voyager, Prodigy makes no sense at all. So what you've basically done is do an animated series that is very much of that tone. Lower Decks is animated, but it's aimed at adults or teenagers or, an older audience. Prodigy was aimed at a young audience and it appeared on the Cartoon Network, but constantly referenced Voyager. I would think you'd have to watch that with your child, and I've made this joke before, but it really is relevant. You would have to, as an adult, watch that show with your kid at 5 or 6 years old and basically give them homework. And basically say, right, no, wasn't that a good episode? Oh, right, that guy's Chakotay. You need to go watch these episodes to understand who he is and why Janeway cares about him. It's just stupid. So, yeah. It was a moronic business idea that came up with a good show, but the reason why it got cancelled was because of the moronic business idea. This show wasn't aimed at anybody in particular. It didn't make sense. So, yeah, I'm sure you guys can now get into the comments and tell me other just moronic creative decisions or business decisions these people have made. I would actually argue that the whole business model with Strange New Worlds about messing with different genres is again stupid, because they seem to forget to actually bother making actual Star Trek. But guys, can you come up with other times that they've just made terrible decisions with these Star Trek series? Get into the comments and tell me exactly what you think. If you are new to the channel, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell notification. It really helps us out and you'll never miss any of our new videos. Also, you can become a member of the channel and get to see a lot of these videos first. I think this is the longest video I've actually ever done on the Tachyon Pulse. Pushing 15 minutes. Oh well. As always, please stay safe, and I'll see you next time.
Our tachyon pulse has been unable to completely penetrate the anomaly.